We are about 10 minutes after the supposed opening hour, so I think we can start. It has been a real pleasure this 2 intense week for the first time online. We are getting used to this new modality, which has a lot of positive elements. We were discussing about the fact that for the first time we could all follow all the lessons, which was very, very good. Of course, we missed a lot of interaction with you, all these informal parts, having lunch, beer, walk together. We have really missed that, all these informal ideas and content that are always leading to interesting results. Okay, as you know, we are now in the closing ceremony, the last day. We will hear from your presentations. We are really looking forward to that. We will have 5 group presentations, and then we will have a small closing remarks. So I'll give the floor to Michele. I guess he also would like to say a few words, and then Danilo will guide us through this ceremony. Thank you very much, and looking forward to hearing from you.
Thanks a lot, Rosa Laura. Just a few words, because I would like to thank especially all the instructors for their great commitment. And I think that also this year, the IPROMO course offered a high quality program. And concerning the climate change, I remember in 2012, we offered a course entitled Understanding and Adapting to Climate Change in Mountain Areas. And I think that after 8 years, things has changed dramatically, especially in mountain. We realized that the temperatures increase of about 0.3 degrees. The glacier lost millions of cubic meters of ice. Extreme weather events occurred. So I think we really need this sort of update after 8 years. And I really hope that this course has given to you the best instruments for a better understanding of effects of climate change in mountain, threats, challenges, but also, why not, opportunities. I think that despite the pandemic, the decision to organize this online IPROMO course was successful. It was really a challenge. I remember a few months ago with Rosa Laura, we were discussing about the idea to organize in any case IPROMO. And I think we were successful, thanks especially also to our chairman, Danilo. The organization was great, especially thanks to his great commitment in this course. Of course, I would like to thank all the participants. You have been great. I really appreciate the discussion at the end of every lecture. It was really a pleasure to hear different voice, different experience, like every year. So now I thank you, and I'm really looking forward to see the working group, to watch the working group presentation, which every year is a very unique opportunity to travel, to visit mountains all over the world. So I would really thank you also for this great opportunity that you give to me. And that's all. So I think that the floor will be yours, but first I think Danilo will organize better this final ceremony. So thanks again to everyone.
Thank you, Michele. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Rosa Laura. I would only like to add that in addition to the discussion that everybody was able to hear during the session, I've been able to see behind the scenes discussion, because I'm very grateful to the participants who attended the, let's say, offline lectures and were so committed to write email to me asking to be connected with some lecturers or directly to the lecturer, because I learned from some lecturer that they've been contacted for questions and discussion and whatever. So it's a pleasure to know that directly or behind the scenes, the participants worked very hard to participate in this IPROMO course. Okay, I'm sharing not the screen, but only a really short note in the chat. The presentation order is a little bit changed. I decided to use the group numbering that is most obvious idea, but group 4, due to some work issues, asked to present as the last one. So I hope that is fine for everybody. So I would like to ask group 1 to prepare, but I would like to explain some technical details. The group member that are presenting, and also the group member that are not presenting, I don't know, each group strategy, are invited, if available, to open their webcam so we can see them in face. And at the end of the ceremony, everybody who has the webcam is invited to open it, so we can make a print screen as a group picture of the course. Moreover, I would like to ask, when I introduce a group, that at least one member should declare himself or herself as a group leader, so I can give her or him the privileges as a speaker, so he or her can share the screen showing the presentation to all the class. And all the presenting members are invited to open their microphones to speak and to make their presentation. I invited the rest of the class to stop using the microphone. I won't be able to close single microphones. I am only able to close all the microphones at the same time, so it won't be very, very nice if I have to stop all the microphones because someone forget to close his microphone. So group number 1, okay, Paula has been democratically nominated leader of working group 1. I don't know if this really democratically, but okay, who cares? Okay, so group 1 is invited to share the screen. Sorry, to open their microphone. Okay, Paula is already the leader and the speaker. Okay, you have 15 minutes. At the end of the time, I will advise you that you are invited to go to the end. I'm not so sharp, but please be sharp in advance. Okay, so I would like to welcome group 1. Please, Paula.
Hello, everyone. So we are working group 1, and Paula will be speaking on behalf of the group. You can see all the participants below, and it will be after having few calls we had to presenting a proposal, a project proposal dealing with engaging youth in sustainable agricultural development in order to reduce social, economic, and environmental pressures for communities benefiting from mountain ecosystem services in view of climate change. So here there's an aspect that you all know very well. So I would like to introduce to our project proposal by starting by saying that, as we all know, mountains are world water towers, home to 15% of global population, rich providers of ecosystem services, especially for highland, lowland communities. So not only for highland, but also lowland communities. However, they are very vulnerable to interconnected pressures such as economic marginalization, leading so to the exacerbation of these pressures and limiting the possibility to pursue sustainable development towards the achievement of the sustainable development goals. Therefore, with this in mind, our group has decided to develop a project proposal aiming at supporting efforts towards sustainable management of mountain ecosystems and agricultural systems, while empowering mountain communities with a special focus on women and youth, sustainable development in adaptation to climate change. So given this, how are we going to do this? To introduce each one of the 6 action areas we have developed towards the development of this project. And then we will conclude with a case study of good practice. Then I will give the word to Lopa, connected to Lopa. Okay. Then I will go on myself. So on the objective, you can see there are a lot of objectives that we are aiming at achieving. Therefore, addressing the main issue, problematics of agricultural systems in mountain areas. Among these, there is, of course, to increase local production with the support of women and youth smallholder farmers. Increase youth involvement in mountain and landscape resilience. So including also capacity building and other supporting networks for expertise of these of youth. Also increase the local mountain production products market accessibility, as well as improve the production of open data in agriculture biodiversity, and you will hear more about this later on. Furthermore, we're going also to, we're also foreseen to foster local economic development, combining both traditional activities, tourism, raising awareness, and other activities that we aim will have a positive benefit into the communities. And now I'm going to give the word to Sonigito for the first action area.
Thank you, Paula, for that introduction. Thanks. Action Area 1 is majorly looking at strengthening youth efforts in climate resilient agricultural production system. Next slide. The research question majorly is looking at what are the current gaps that are needed to be filled to attract youth to rural areas for resilient towards agricultural production system. We have noticed over the years that youths are always migrating to the city because of maybe the challenges they have in the agricultural production system. So our main hypothesis here will be capacity building of rural youth on climate resilient agricultural practices in order to have a sustainable production processes and improve market access for their produce, even under the stress of climate change and extreme climatic events, therefore increasing their economic, social, and environmental resilience. Next slide, please. Next slide. The actions that we have identified on this will be mapping of needs of mountain youth and women across the mountain landscape. It's very critical. We need to also look at the interest of youth and women in natural resource management. That brings us to the issues around knowledge application. We have to pilot integrated agricultural practices with pilot farmers. Do it by yourself, so you have farmer fee school right in their farms. And implementation of alternative youth and women livelihood options related to environment conservation within the mountain area. So in this farmer fee school, we'll be able to, those actions that we need to take, be able to educate them, understand their knowledge level, and then further identify the various gaps that need to be filled for the actions to take place. Next slide, please. Thank you, Lopa.
Do we have Lopa?
Remedy. Action Area 2, inclusive climate finance for youth and women enterprise schemes. Originally was supposed to be presented by our friends in Uganda, Lupa Pius, who may have technical issues. Next slide, please. The research question is, are the women and youth village saving and loan schemes in developing contributing towards financial inclusion or an abstract in rural development? The core hypothesis will be collective resource mobilization and saving contributes towards rural financial inclusion, which will be VSLA playing role in rural asset protection and food security. That is VSLA is Village Saving Loan Account Scheme. Next slide, please. The actions that will the gap analysis, identification, and supporting youth climate smart enterprise that facilitate youth financial inclusion. Over the years, we have looked at women are also deficient in terms of accessing finance, even the youth, because they do not have access to certain collateral. And we need to, second, we need to lobby through advocacy as key policy gaps to influence policymakers and leaders on the climate finances subject, address climate finance and resource allocation in developing countries. The third will be strengthening youth and women village saving and loan association schemes for increased access, protection, and income generation activity through continuous engagement. We'll need to link financial institutions, especially microfinance funds, to youth and women smallholder farmers for enterprise development. This will be based on the policy that government will be able to present and the engagement of other stakeholders. Lupa has joined. Please, can you continue from the next slide?
Actually, action area 3, which I believe is.
Yes, here I am. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
So our action area 3 focuses on strengthening young people and women in sustainable land and water management. Okay, go next slide, please. Our main, so our research question is land and water resource management urgent soft skill for rural youth and women in developing countries? And our main hypothesis is to build capacity of rural young people and women leadership on land and water resource management in all developing countries, also supporting them in projects which improve climate change and resilience. And so next slide, please. We designed some action in it, some action in support of it, like mapping and assessing youth capabilities and community relationship on water and land management. And this enabled to understand their effort also in management of watershed, water catchment, and also in mountain. And promote payment for ecosystem services excited by youth in own communities. It would provide an opportunity to safeguard biodiversity, to involve community raising awareness of causes and impacts of climate change and adaptation practices for water. But also drafting a package that allows supporting water for production and consumption technologies as rainwater harvesting technologies, micro irrigation systems for agriculture and livestock production.
Another crucial action is the improving the production of open data in agriculture and biodiversity. Next slide. We are convinced that without a broad availability of scientific, social, and market data, it's difficult to improve the potential of agricultural sector and to face with problems like food security and nutrition challenges. It's fundamental. Data sharing and free access to information regarding land use, natural ecosystem, climate are necessary to increase knowledge and to give the instrument to communities to face climate change challenges and to improve their their resilience capacity. Next slide. One of the action which can be implemented are, for example, nutrition training and education. First of all, for official of public institution and education professional and workers who can then in person spread their knowledge and information to local actors, to small farmers and landowners, which are daily facing with concrete problems regarding life in mountain, food production. And but it's fundamental to provide this information, these education programs with flexible teaching methods. In order to respect the principle of equity, we have to consider that not everybody can have a computer, or so different methods are to be considered: learning programs, radio, video materials, and so on. So starting from the acquired knowledge, then it's easier to implement, to spread the implementation of sustainable practices in agriculture in the mountain communities, and probably also improve the possibility of new job opportunities. One of the instruments can also be the creation of digital platform, which is very useful to not only for data sharing, expertise, knowledge sharing, but also to interconnect people. In this case, interconnect mountain communities, small farmers, and improve the collaboration, and hopefully also finally adopt a common integrated approach shared by public and private sector.
And continuing to Action Area 5, we tackle the up-to-date technology, which is broadband and technology, food and security. So is it an opportunity or a threat? Please, next slide. Sustainable farming and
15 minutes.
It's putting pressure on the workers and on the farmers that are working in this field. And one of the ways to make these rural areas more attractive or more being present for the rural people is digitalizing them or giving them accessibility to these products. On the next slide. So a logic intervention, how to achieve this digitalization that we are aiming to acquire. The first one is an internet infrastructure that covers all rural areas, so a wide broadband infrastructure. The second one, it would be accessibility. How can these people access these products so as to increase the quality and trust in food services? And the last one is that we aim for the young people, for the youth ages, so as to equip them with the soft skills of ICT in becoming local rural interpreters. Thank you.
Yeah, please go to the conclusion.
Can I continue, Danilo?
Yes, please. You are already past the 15 minutes.
Okay, last but not least, action area is action area 6. We call it gender equality. Next slide. Okay, research question. Let's ask ourselves: are the women in developing countries vulnerable groups, or they are just invisible force in the development of rural mountain areas. Our hypothesis was that women for sure has a vital role as primary actors in natural source management and agriculture as well. And adaptation actions need to be more gender sensitive and inclusive. Next slide. Okay, so just briefly, these are some of the actions we recommended. Of course, these are not all, just to mention some. For example, enhance women's engagement in local level regarding the planning and implementation process. Also, it's very important research and knowledge management. Also, strengthen local level women's organization and networks. New one, and also the one they are actually there. Also, separate or create specific can be like seed money, grants, subsidies, and so on. Also, promoting time saving and the gender women appropriate technologies. Also, to train and develop male gender champion. To see, and also women leadership.
And because I understand we don't have time, I hope Mohammed is going to have it against me. I will just mention that we had an implementation example, so a case study from Morocco proposed by Mohammed, which he was supposed to go through, but I believe then this presentation will also be made available. So if anyone wants to have a look at it more carefully afterwards, it will be given a chance. He's presenting how these areas can actually have a I conclude just by saying that this project, of course, is
excuse me.
And
Paula, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
You can show properly the slides, and we skip the question time.
Okay, then Mohammed, is to you. We cannot.
It's still having challenge.
Well, I guess technology is not our side today. I don't know, Suniyito, if you want to jump in or.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, from the National Forest Program in mountainous area in Morocco, as presented by our friend Mohammed, who is having some challenge, was completed in 1999. In particular, it defined a strategic framework in 3 approaches, which is a heritage approach based on the sharing of responsibility with all the actors involved in land use planning, a territorial approach integrating the actors within the framework of a rural development dynamic, and a participatory and partnership approach involving the support of the user population, local authorities, and the private sector in the planning and sustainable development processes. Now, the key element there is that there was strengthening and continuation of the experiment and initiative launched to enhance the value of the forest resource of the reef. The consolidation of organizational bodies representing the population around the massive association user groups and cooperative made up of that was really very strong. And the continuation of partnership and actions committed. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, inefficiencies of the benches. This is the oldest and well-known form of runoff water collection and recovery system. It was experienced in Reef Mountain. It is used for the cultivation of olive, fig, and flower trees. You could see the picture by your side. how it's properly did. Then there is this technique was the basis of the DEFRO project covers, which a big part of the Reef Mountains in northern Morocco. This technique has encouraged the arboriculture, and hence there is a strong dynamic for the development of arboriculture. The degree of acceptance of the fruit tree is high, but it is important to disassociate it from the acceptance of the bench itself by the local population. Thank you. Next slide.
Thank you very much, everyone. I will then just by saying we are aware that this project proposal is a bare introduction because we only presented action areas, but we did say nothing about approach, implementation, in concrete case studies. This could go on forever, but we hope get this glimpse of a proposal, and who knows, maybe one day we will really be able to do something more concrete about it. And here's our group picture, as you can see, with the limits of pandemic and an online course. But thank you very much for this opportunity. We all enjoyed for sure this course and also working together on this group. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula, very much. Thank you, Group 1, for your presentation and for managing also technical issues, and for the plan B. I saw that Sunigitu was able to cover some parts that are assigned to other as Lupa, but not for problems of the person, but for the connection. So I would like to congratulate with everybody for the great work. Okay, now I would like to welcome group number 2, and I would like to know who will be the group leader, so I can give her or him the privileges as the speaker. So group 2, please open the microphones and open the webcams and give me some answers. Is there anybody from group 2? Okay, it's quite strange, but nobody from group 2, please. Okay, let's say we can not skip, but we can temporarily skip group 2, and if group 3 is ready, I know that the presentation will be carried out by Kika. Welcome, Kika. I give you a lot of interesting tools on the wall on your back, and I congratulate. Okay, now Kika is the speaker. You can share the screen.
All right. Well, good morning. It's morning my time here. I'm Rizal. I am speaking on behalf of Group 3 for the first part of the presentation. Then Paul will jump in. And we're going to be talking about the IPROMOs. If you just take a second. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's a little bit small. Maybe you have to switch to, okay, great.
Perfect.
Please.
Well, we a little bit now and then over the last 2 weeks the IPROMOs and its importance. It is this ecosystem that is located in the tropical Andes, and evidence from the International Research Institute for Climate and Society from the Columbia University says that the tropical Andes are warming faster than anywhere else in the world except for the Arctic. That's why we chose this. So this was people involved in putting together this presentation and discussing our study. There's people from all over the world, or not all over the world, all over the Americas, and many different areas also. And I'd like to begin with, I'm gonna stop sharing my presentation just for a second because I'm gonna share another one with a short video that introduces the topic really well. So let's see, okay, what do I need to do again? Okay, so I need to reshare, I guess. Let's see if I can do this. Any tips on how to do this? There you go.
It's appearing.
Awesome. Thanks for letting me know.
It's so hard to define the pattern. It's one of those unique ecosystems that you have on this planet. So it's a tiny belt located in the mountain summits of the tropical Andes. It is quite important because in the case of Colombia, it provides water supply to about 50 to 60% of the total number of inhabitants living in the close surroundings of these mountain environments. It provides habitats for many different species. Many of them are in this environment, which means, of course, they cannot be found anywhere on the planet. Paramos have been warming up significantly faster than many other ecosystems on the planet. So we're trying to understand what's going on. There was a bigger gap in our understanding of the climate of this environment. Most of weather stations in the tropics are restricted to altitudes below 2,800 meters above sea level. We installed as many data loggers as possible. The idea was to track changes in temperature at different altitudes.
There's about 24 sensors all around the watershed. What I do is try to model all the climatic systems, try to understand what is happening with the atmosphere, and try to model this to the future.
We've seen a significant trends over the past 10 years. It's a very short time period to assess long-term trends that is quite surprising. We think that these places are warming significantly faster than the surrounding lowlands. And that is happening because of the unusual upper tropospheric warming that seems to be taking place in our planet. Most of our glaciers are receding at a very fast since the ice age. They've been in their receding process, and very recently we've seen a dramatic increase in the receding rate. That's going to be an issue in the future because they tend to provide water supply to watersheds, which of course serve as the main suppliers of water to the communities living in the lowlands.
Here, what we're seeing is the climatic station where we are recording different climatic variables and some other issues like soil moisture, which to connect how vegetation brings the service of water regulation into the environmental system.
Entonces decimos, no, pues que aquí se regula mucha agua, pero no sabemos cuánta, no sabemos cómo la calidad del agua, por ejemplo. Resultando más procesos de investigación, nosotros vamos a tener mayor conocimiento de qué es lo que estamos cuidando, de qué es lo que queremos conservar.
We've seen an increasing effort of the National Parks Unit and the Colombian government, in particular, to protect this environment. They are starting to turn heads to the Paramo and see that we have a magnificent ecosystem that has to be preserved. This space could be one of the harbingers of climate change. If we understand how ecosystems respond to these changes in this environment, we can get some insights into how many other global ecosystems could respond to global warming.
Okay. All right. I think it could give you a general introduction to what the Paramos is and the challenges, or at least a few of the challenges and the ecosystem importance of that area. I'm going to go back to the presentation now and continue a little bit on our introduction, going a little bit deeper into what the short video was talking about. So the Paramos is this ecosystem located in this tropical belt, and it's a highly biodiverse, socially and economically important. And it stays right here, like in this western corner of South America and Central America. It's an ecosystem generally found at around 3,000 meters and above. So the temperatures are usually high, but it can drastically change from night and day. And it's an ecosystem dominated by grasslands and a mosaic of wetlands and peatlands that act as sponges to collect water from rain, drizzle, and glaciers from the melting of the glaciers. So you can probably think from all the lectures that we've been listening to that this ecosystem has been getting a lot of water lately, and from also this short video that's saying that it's warming up super fast in this area, in the tropical Andes. The soil is very rich in organic matter, and as I said, it retains, filters, and then distributes water into lagoons, rivers, and streams. It's actually one of the sources for the Amazon basin, for example, and it reaches all the way to the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans. As you can probably imagine, it does have a very hydrological importance. It provides water supply to many different areas, including Quito, which is the capital of Ecuador, and Bogota, the capital of Colombia. It also regulates water flows and well, it's the water supply for a good part of the population of the tropical Andes besides these big cities. They have an important water function. As they are cold climate areas, there's less evapotranspiration and evaporation in general than at lower altitudes. But it's not only important because of the water sources, it's also a very highly biodiverse environment. It's a natural ecosystem that are set of several smaller ecosystems on the landscape in biogeographic islands. And these are the peatlands and also all the rivers and lagoons that are formed within this ecosystem. It has about 5,000 species, out of which 3,000 are endemic to the Paramos. So you can think of the biological importance. Talking about the social cultural importance, there are evidence that human beings have been to the Paramos since prehistoric times. And when the Spanish arrived in the Americas, it changed a lot of the social cultural dynamics, and it started impacting each more time or increasingly more time the Paramos. They are centers of ethnic and cultural diversity, and it provides material knowledge and are the sources of cosmovision and determined forms of appropriation and territorial management of the areas. They form, along with different types of ecosystem, for the communication routes of the Inca culture and the Andean culture that is very traditional in the area. Well, as I mentioned before, there are evidences that the Paramos are threatened right now. Not just climate evidence. We have been seeing biodiversity loss, soil compaction, and Rosalara addressed this a little bit with the introduction of, for example, cattle raising. The water quantity and quality depletion, even though, as we could see in the short film, we have not an accurate estimate yet, and that's a gap that needs to be filled. Environmental degradation and land use change, for example, farming. A few causes that cause these main threats are inequality to the access and productive land and access to water. Urban water demand and urban food demand that put pressures into land use change. And of course, climate change. But now I'm going to give the floor to Paul so he can introduce this big threat. Paul?
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you, Kika, for that wonderful introduction. I will take it from here and I will talk about three things. First of all, some trends on climate change in the Paramos, using Ecuador as an example. Then I will go on to talking about some implications of climate change for cities that depend on Paramos for their water supply and other ecosystem services. And finally, I will touch a little bit on what people in the Paramos are doing to adapt to changing context. So let's talk about the trends first. In this slide, we can see part of a study conducted by a group member, Mercy El Valle, and her colleagues here in Ecuador. It analyzes 50 years of precipitation and temperature data from 12 stations located in different areas in the Paramo in Ecuador. You can see here this map where it is showing where the stations were located. And this first slide, which is about temperature, shows us that there is a steady incline of temperature between 1965 and 2013. But only for 2 of these stations that were monitored and where the data was collected. So the other 10 stations did not record any increases or significant increases in temperature over the years. Let's go to the next slide, please. So in this next slide, we see what happened with the measurement on precipitation, and what we see here is that there is a lot more variation in the results. So some stations, the ones shown on the left side, show that there's been a decline of precipitation, whereas the ones on the right side show an incline in precipitation. So in some regions, it's raining more, and in some regions we have less rain over the years. And this is just to show that although the Paramos may be similar across the tropical Andes, there is also differences between them or among them on how they are facing the changes produced by climatic change. This takes us to our next slide, please, where we can see the location of the capital cities of some of the Andean countries, Bogota, Quito, and La Paz, mainly located very close to Paramos. But there are also other big cities near Bogota and also in Ecuador that derive most of the water they use for human consumption and for production directly from the Paramos. These cities, for example, Quito is a city of over 2.5 million people and directly depends in more than 90% of getting water from Paramos and glaciers. And glaciers, of course, in this region are also retreating. And one thing that I would like to point out with this slide is that some models of climatic change and demographic growth show that demographic growth will actually be the most important stressor of water availability in cities in the Andes in the next 3 decades. So although climatic change is important, there are also other anthropic dynamics here at play that increase or enhance the effects of climatic change. And we've put here 2 quotations from 2 different studies that I think are very interesting. The first one is just saying that it's expected that demographic changes are very likely to outpace the impact of climatic change on water availability. These are cities that keep growing, and not only the growing number, but also the demand of each individual keeps growing for different uses. And now the next quotation talks about this meltdown narrative, and we've been talking about this and hearing from the instructors on this. And we know that there is evidence that the glaciers are retreating and that there are changes in precipitation. Although if we use that as the main narrative for climate change, we may also be hiding other dynamics that has to do more with politics and with social effects that cause the imbalance of the distribution of water, and of course are determined by power imbalances, and at some point those imbalances determine where the water flows to. Let's go to the next slide, please.
15 minutes.
Okay, I'll just take 30 more seconds to finish this. So it is important to know what people are doing in terms of adapting to climate change. Here in this representation, we have 2 different groups of organizations in Ecuador that were implementing activities towards adaptation. And you can see they're very different. They were originating in very different Paramo localities. But the message here is that some of these social networks that try to do things for adaptation are very dependent on external resources, and sometimes they disappear very quickly, so the actions are not long-lasting. And in the last slide, we're presenting a list of different actions that have been undertaken by different groups all across the tropical Andes in order to increase their adaptation capacity to climate change. We're talking about participatory research, territorial planning to control the expansion of agriculture, also direct actions for conservation and restoration, some capacity building at different levels, especially about communication and education, and also strengthening good agricultural practices that decrease the impact that paramos are having from anthropic activities. That would be all from us. Thank you very much for your attention and for everyone in the group for contributing to this presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kika. I'm always sorry to interrupt the presentation for time issues, but it's my job. Okay. Okay, now it's time for a question for the group. If someone is interested in writing the question, we have time for one short question, and then we can move to the presentation of group number 5. So please, if there is one question, it's now the time. Okay, a lot of people congratulate with you and with the presentation. And there is okay, thank you, Kika. She is sharing the link to the video at the beginning of their presentation of group number 3. Okay, I guess there are no questions, so we can. I have only a comment. I was chatting privately with Michele. I have to admit that I really would like to visit those paramos, because when I started working in this IPROMO, I've heard a lot of time the description of those environments, and okay, I really want to visit them because they're really amazing, and every time I hear about them, I get more and more interested.
Danilo, sorry, I agree, fully agree with you. We have to organize a visit to the paramo, of course, but I have just a question about the super paramo at a very high elevation, because if I understood well, there is a lack of meteorological data there. I mean, most of the weather stations are at lower elevation, so it's very difficult to assess the climate change up to the high elevation. I understood well.
Well, that's my impression, but maybe C or Alexandra, who work with climate change in the area, can come up with more information about it. I don't know. Let me see if they're here.
And maybe while they prepare, just a quick comment on that, Michele. That's right. And in the past 5 to 8 years, some cities have been investing, at least in Ecuador, heavily on putting some meteorological stations in the higher elevations, but there is still just a few of them up there, at least in Ecuador, from what I know.
Okay, thanks a lot. And do you know if there are any, permanent plots for the measurement of also biodiversity, other issue, like long-term ecological research plots or something like that? I mean, some points for monitoring enclosed in a network like LTR or other networks. Do you know if there is something?
I know there are some of these in Colombia and also in the southern provinces of Ecuador. They're run by the Universidad de Cuenca, and I can put you in touch with them if you'd like to know more, and everyone here, of course, in the group.
Yes, thanks a lot. Yeah.
Michele, if I can add something, this is Rosa Laura. I attended a few years ago a Paramo Congress. I think it was in Colombia, and there were many experts dealing with this ecosystem. So I'm sure there is a lot of research going on. I'm sure the Humboldt Institute and other universities are working on this. Even Condescend in the past had activities in the Paramos. So I'm sure there is a lot of literature existing and research going on. And yeah, I'm sure we can put you in contact with some researchers.
I thanks a lot, Rosa Laura. I think that they need also some researcher from Italy. Why not?
Exactly, exactly. This is what, as Mountain Parachute, we can facilitate.
Okay, Danilo, ready?
Okay, thank you. We have a question, but also a comment from Anna. You want to add something about this question concerning Paramos?
Oh, yes. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Kika and Paul, for the presentation. And I'm just going to put some links in the chat about the organization that are doing monitoring of all the things that biodiversity, water, and that stuff, at least in Colombia.
Okay, that's amazing.
Thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot.
Anna.
Thanks a lot.
There is a question from Lupa, and then we have to stop the question time to go to group number 5. Okay, the question from Lupa is, I want to know what a paramos is, maybe. Do they exist in Africa also? And where in Africa, maybe? Sorry. No, you don't have to be sorry. And you're not supposed to know what paramos is. So, please.
Well, this is Rosa Laura again. I know that there is a paramo similar ecosystem in Ethiopia, but paramo is very specific. The name paramos is very specific to tropical Andes, but a similar ecosystem, I think, exists in Ethiopia, in the highlands of Ethiopia. But of course, the temperature is different.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I have to disclose I'm not an expert in paramos. I live in Brazil where there's no paramos, but from what I've read to this presentation, it's endemic to the tropical Andes, even though in that tropical belt that I showed on the map, there are similar ecosystems in different areas in the planet, but not quite as the paramos, as Rosa Laura was pointing out.
Okay, thank you, Kika. Thank you very much. Now it's group number 5's turn. I'm asking if Joel is ready. I'm giving him the speaker privileges. And group, okay. Welcome to the ceremony. So now you can share your screen. And yeah, the group is invited to open their welcome so we can see your. Okay, Alvaro, Juan, Marisa. Okay, great. So when you are ready, just let me know. I'll start your time. You have also to open the microphones because.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Joel, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Are you listening to me now?
Yes, please.
And are you listening? Are you seeing the presentation? The presentation.
Yes.
Too? Okay. Thanks, Danilo. We are the group 5. The name of our project or our work is the Andean region and the challenge of climate change from the perspective of 3 local communities. We are all from South American countries, and we are going to present 3 cases in which members of our team are working currently. The first project is Ancash, located is a local community located in Peru. Abancay, another local community located in Peru too. And Cajón del Maipo, that is located in Chile, near Santiago de Chile. And before the presentation of the 3 cases, we consider that it's important to make a brief review of the current and future impacts that climate change have or South America, according to IPCC reports. Some of these challenges are risk of desertification, negative agriculture changes and impacts, changes in ecosystems and loss of biodiversity, impact on mountain regions, melting of glaciers, and obviously problems regarding water availability reduced to reduction in glaciers and in because of the reduction of snow in winter. And because of these impacts, we consider that this is extremely important to implement and adopt adaptation and mitigation strategies. And we consider that our exercise of compare 3 different cases could be useful for exchange experience regarding local knowledge and food security that is extremely important for local communities. Now Beatriz is going to present the first case. That is the case of Ancash in the White Mountain Range in Peru.
Hi, everybody. We work in Cordillera Blanca, which is the most important tropical glaciers in the world. But here we focus in communities. So we work in 3 communities, and this is the elevation range of most of them. They usually use this range for 3,000 to almost 5,000 meters above sea level to manage livestock. In this area, mainly is cattle and sheep, and this is a map. So you can see that few areas are using for agriculture, and the most part of the community are livestock use. No, they have a little space with forest plantation, mainly eucalyptus, and they have little towns near to the agricultural lands because it's of elevation that they can do this kind of activities. So here put 2 photographs, then you can have an image of what is the conditions of these shepherds, these people who cares the livestock. So you can see that in some parts is cattle really near to the glacier, and they support these really hard conditions, not only the livestock, also the people. And you can see that usually women are who make these activities. So they live alone with a lot of dogs around in this little cottage above 4,000 meters. So the conditions of weather are really, really hard. So the main impacts of the climate change in those regions are that many people are abandoned agricultural lands and activities because they have so variation and, for example, frost outside the season, and they have to support many hard conditions, so they abandoned the agricultural lands. In the case of livestock, in those areas, the increase of thunderstorms are really dangerous for people because they exposed to these kind of events, and people dead each year related with those thunderstorms. And we can see that we can increase degradation in pasture lands is not only related with climate change, it's also a mix with the overgrazing. And that we want to do in these areas. Most people in these communities are old people, so we want to, and we try to involve new generations, younger people, and we work in capacity building, especially for people, but also with institutions, these communal organizations. we try to incorporate a gender approach because, as I said, the women are the main shepherds in the highlands. It's really important to recovery traditional practices. Here they have a lot of experience with water management in grasslands, and they lost this kind of practice because only the older in the communities maintain these kind of practices. People prefer the new practices, technological, and this is not a solution in these areas. You can see in the picture what is the level of degradation in grasslands in some parts. So it's really important to make restoration in those areas because they don't have any fodder for the livestock, and that's the case in Cordillera Blanca.
Hello, everybody. I'm Juan Pablo. The case is located in Abancay, which is southern of Peru in the Andes. In this case, there are a practice is implementing like a compensation mechanism for ecosystem service, which is to provide conservation practices in Rontojocha Lake. We see in the slide, which is located up in the mountains above 4,300 meters sea level. So we've identified some of issues, some problems, which is overgrazing in water recharge areas, decrease of water flow for consumption, degradation of unused pastures and forests, high variation of the climate, presence of frost, hail, drought, which affects to the agriculture production to farmers. In this case, there are two communities. They are doing some conservation practices in order to guarantee water storage and water supply, which is one of them is the community of Atumpata. The second one is the community of Micaela Bastidas. They have around 500 farmers, family farmers. They are doing some practices to guarantee water storage and supply. And we have done some practices like construction of diques with local materials, as we see in the pictures in the first one. The second practice is we are doing some afforestation of 40 hectares of native plant, which is a Polylepsis keunia. Another practice we are doing is installation of grassland protection fences in 336 hectares, as we see in the pictures, and grassland plantation in 22 hectares, which is Stipa ichu, which is a native local grass. And also we are working with local farmers in training as a promoters to planting and harvesting water, which they are the main focus program to train these farmers, to help them how to organize their community, how to work with other farmers, and how they can do some good practices in order to conserve the water.
Hi to everyone. The third case is called Sustainable Livestock Pilot Program in the frame of the GEF Biological Corridor of Mountains. The location of the project is in Chile Central, in the metropolitan region of Santiago, in the head of the Maipo River Basin. The climate is Mediterranean with a precipitation of 350 millimeters. This amount is decreasing in a rate of 10 millimeters by decade in the last 5 decades. The altitude range is from 1,000 to 4,000 meters of altitude. The case is a public property of 10,000 hectares of surface, which is used by communities of transhumant cattle ranchers in a traditional way. They use the low part of the land where there are sclerophyllus forests in winter, and in the high mountain in summer where there are scrubs and pastures. When snow melts, they go up, generating a cyclical movement between these two ambients. In this photo, you can look the brown color of the vegetation of the scrub generated by an extreme event of drought for the in the last decade. So the problem, sorry, the problem is that actually there is a ecosystem degradation due to overgrazing and an increased effect of climate change and extreme drought during the last decade. This threatens the environmental services provided at the basin level and the biodiversity. Some social consequences of that are the abandonment of the traditional activity, the decline of the local economy, disinterest of young people, etc. For this reason, it has been decided to carry out a livestock management plan that allows to reverse overgrazing and increase the resilience of the ecosystem, for which a methodological approach is based on holistic management that consists in managing the land as a system with people, their capacities, expectations, resources, and reestablishing the cycles of nature that are damaged. So our approach is based on the rescue of traditional knowledge and participation in the construction of the plan to promote the empowerment of the community and favor the continuity.
Mute, Cesar, mute.
Sorry?
Yep, please go on.
Okay. And to favor the continuity of the plan over time. The three pillars of the construction of the plan are the grazing planning, the strengthening the internal and external governance of the community, and the economic diversification, specifically based in tourism and grazing for wildfire prevention in the wild-urban interface. So you can see some maps here. The first one is the toponymy, which expresses the deep knowledge and appropriation of the territory by part of community and allows you to handle a common language with the community. And the second one are the spatial grazing units, which allow you to generate a rotational grazing plan to allow the vegetation recovery. And this summer will be the first season of implementation of the rotational grazing plan.
15 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Joel. And thank you, Alvaro.
I will talk a little about the indicators that we think are very important to be able to understand what is happening in a regional perspective, but at the same time locally, and with that be able to take some decisions. As mentioned in the session with Rodrigo Nitu, she said that the historical climate information with consecutive years of a period of 30 years is important to collect, to be able to understand and then apply the different models of the general circulation that exists, and with that be able to understand what, how could be the future with the different scenarios and the risk associated with this. So we're showing different indicators based on temperature, precipitation, and with those the extreme variables, and then the ecosystem and the socioeconomic, and that will bring us or support us to take different decisions on these different levels. The temperature, basically, well, we know changing the climate variables such as temperature, the precipitation, the humidity, affect the range of natural process and the human activities. The precipitation is at the same time an indicator of the particular crucial signs that have a wide ranging effect on different ecosystems, but at the same time the human well-being. In this case, of the three cases, the importance of the socio ecosystem process that involves the natural perspective, but at the same time the human beings and how the development of the activities are related to the development of the people. So, well, in general, this is how the temperature, the different information that is required to be able to take decisions, informed decisions. The extreme variables, I want just to highlight the importance in this case because it's our rangeland and the pasture have different behavior during the different seasons, and that will support the animals to grow, and then obviously how the animals grow, that will be an economic support for the families. So it's important to understand the different levels of how the temperature and the precipitation will affect the development of the pastures of the grasslands. And then it's very important to understand how the ecosystem is locally, because we are going to apply, or in general, you're going to apply the regional information, but then locally to be able to understand specific risks and vulnerabilities, and then the exposure as well. So it's important to understand the productivity of the land, the slope gradient that will support and understand the erosion as well, the soil moisture, the water retention characteristics that are on the soil. Michael explained that very well. The wetlands management as well, how the production of water that comes from the wetlands, the capacity retention that they have in the high Andes, and at the same time, the water demand of the growing period, specifically for the grassland and the vegetation that are in these different locations. And then socioeconomic perspective is important to understand locally how are the incomes of the families, how they support with the livestock in that locations. Then obviously the number of farmers that are training and improved livestock techniques that will support the management, the decision makings that they need to take. So that could be improved if they have a low or high capacity, depends, and that is part of the exposure analysis. Very important as well, the involvement of the women on the decision-making process inside the community, how they are in a gender perspective defining the decision that will take to support the families. Hans and Danielle mentioned about the risk analysis. So as you can see, we consider the hazard, the vulnerabilities, but at the same time the exposure, as mentioned with the IPCC 50 report, to understand all the impacts that will be and the potential consequence when we define the list. So I will, before pass over to Carmen, just mention the adaptation options in general. So that brings some questions that we can define here with these cases and say what should be done for conservation of the natural resources against the changing climate. That is to protect the intact lands. And when we think about manage the working lands, is what should be done for strengthening animal biocapacity to cope with adverse impacts of climate change. Other question could be what should be done by the herders to ensure better management to enhance the livelihood of the rural families. And when we talk about restoration, we can ask or define a question, what should be done to cover overgrazing lands and poor wetlands? I just want to say that it's important to move from the assessment to the implementation of adaptation measures with clear natural conservation goals and strong aims to development. I will pass over to Carmen. She will provide the conclusions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving me the floor. As you can notice, there are many similarities between the cases that have been presented today. We can conclude that people that live in mountain areas in the Andean region face similar social, economic, environmental conditions that influence and how this population adapt themselves to the effects of climate change. And this is very important because we have found very similarities between the three cases that we have presented today. So due to this situation, we think that it's relevant to make an adequate assessment to the vulnerabilities of these populations in the highland regions to better understand the effects of climate change in their community activities. So based on these experiences, adaptation measures should be taken and should be promoted to put in place integral responses considering economic, social, and environmental factors, and also taking into account traditional knowledge, gender equality, and diversification of economic activities. Next, please. So also we can notice that it's important to conduct open, transparent, and participatory processes to reflect with accuracy the needs and expectations of the communities. And in this process, it's important to take into consideration the participation of women. So gender equality should be an element of this participatory process too. And this experience has helped us to identify the importance of sharing experiences to identify common challenges and successful measures. So in this regard, it's important that people who take decisions, but also scientists, can take advantage of existing platforms to share experience, to promote joint strategies that contribute to improving the health of mountain ecosystems and people well-being. And in this regard, Andean countries specifically should improve their participation in Andean Mountain Initiative, which is a platform dedicated to promote dialogue among the countries and to articulate strategies towards the conservation of mountains and their sustainable development to enhance their common response to challenges posed by climate change. Also, I would like to mention that take decisive actions on adaptation on climate change in mountain areas will contribute in a decisive manner to achievement of the goals of the Paris Agreement and also to the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening to our presentation.
Okay, thank you very much to group 5. It was a really interesting presentation. I would like to add a personal comment because it was really a pleasure to see again the Maipo area. I've been there some years ago. I cannot forget this beautiful place in Chile, especially the Termas del Plomo. And okay, it would be really a pleasure to going back there in the beautiful glaciers. Okay, there is a raised hand from Mohamed. Do you have a question? Please, it's time to ask it. Mohamed? Okay, the question is written here. I read it because it's okay. No, there is a question from Lupa. Overgrazing in many areas moves with livestock concentration and restricted access to available land resources in some ecosystems like conservation areas. It also depends on how policy looks at livestock keepers. If rangelands, grassland management policy exists in a certain area is key. Some of the livestock keepers have practiced livestock farming for millennia. Land fragmentation, in Andes is also causing more vulnerability. Livestock keepers have also used environmental variability as an opportunity to explore various ecosystems in different landscapes. So variability has not always been a problem to many extensive livestock keepers, but an achievement to nurture fields. Do you think variability is a challenge to extensive farmers?
Yeah, here in Peru, grassland is probably the most ancient land use in our history. So that's why we talk about the recovery and respect the traditional knowledge. Here, probably more problems related with tenure land is related with the change of the tradition of rotate livestock. So it's a challenge, but it's not related with variability of land because the people is accustomed and they use this kind of land centuries ago. So probably the challenge is adapt that kind of management to the actual characteristics of the land and policies and land use. Near to the area that I exposed is a natural protected area. So that it's important because change the rules of the access of those grasslands. So we have many challenges to try to maintain this kind of traditional uses of land. That's in my opinion.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there additional point of view from the other country of the group?
Alvaro,
I don't know if you can add something to Beatriz.
Yeah, I am agree with the Lupa affirmation about this kind of livestock can use the natural variability or develop the activity, but I think that depends what is the variability we are talking about, what is the scale of variability, because in our case we are living a rudeness very intensive, and we are located in a boundary, in a threshold of in a climate threshold between the Mediterranean and semi-arid regions. So this variability is a threat bigger than in other places, I think. So I can give an answer so definitively. I think that depends of the context. Sorry by my language, but
Okay, thank you so much. So I'd like to thank again group number 5 for their interesting presentation. And now it's the turn of group number 4 that asked to present now So I would like to ask to group 5 to close their webcams and to group 4 to open their webcam and microphones. So I can give them the privileges for the speaker. Okay. Hello, namaste. I would like to
Hello everyone. Hello, namaste.
Okay, the slides are appearing. And
Yes.
okay, so something is appearing. So when you are ready, I will start the time.
Actually, I have just stopped my car and I'm presenting on my car. So I is poor here. So I have to close my webcam.
Yes, for sure. Thank you. Okay, please.
Okay. So I'm Manas Dwivedi, and let me my team, Nima from Bhutan, Geeta from Nepal, and Navneet from India. So I will present about recent infrastructure project in India and why this project work in this geologically unstable and ecologically fragile Himalayan region. So, Nima, are you ready? Okay, so actually, Himalaya is the most urbanizing mountains of the world, where the process of urban growth has been fast but planned and unregulated. During the recent decades, Himalaya has experienced rapid urbanization, mainly in response to population growth, improved road connectivity, development of tourism and economic globalization. As a result, urbanization has emerged as one of the important drivers of land use and environmental changes, natural resources and biodiversity, and disrupting natural drainage and ecosystem services, and increasing vulnerability of anthropogenically modified slopes to a variety of natural risk, particularly under climate change. So here I will discuss about one infrastructure project. The recent infrastructure projects in Uttarakhand, actually Uttarakhand is a teeny northern Himalayan state in India, have shown more than ever that we need a development strategy for the Himalayas, takes into account the vulnerability of the region and the need for environment protection. There is no doubt that the region needs economic growth, but this development cannot come at the cost of the environment. It will only make the already risk and ecologically fragile region more vulnerable and development more deadly. We also know that climate change will exacerbate the vulnerability of this already fragile region. So at 3,500 meters above sea level, Himalayan glaciers melt to create Ganges and Yamuna rivers that support over 600 million Indians. This ecologically sensitive region in the state of Uttarakhand is now the site of massive 900-kilometer highway building project, all-weather road project, is a two-lane expressway project currently being executed in Himalayan state of Uttarakhand. Actually, the project proposes widening of single-lane roads into double lane by up to 10 meters. The stated aim of the project is to improve the accessibility to Char Dham shrines. Actually, it's a Hindu shrines, namely Yamunotri, Gangotri, Badrinath, and Kedarnath. And project also proposes creation of 900-kilometer long national highways to connect whole of Uttarakhand state. It has been divided into 7 packages comprising of 9 destinations. And the project is named Char Dham Mahamarg Vikas Pariyojana. In English, I can say Char Dham Highway Development Project. And after completion, it would be known as Char Dham Highway. The total cost of this project is around 15,000 crores and in billions, $1.70 billion. So, next, Nima, can you please change the slide? Okay. So the first major impact of the project is happening on trees and resultantly on dwindling forest cover of the state. Various reports from the government and from the international agencies claim that about 50,000 trees across 8 districts to make way for the roads. A forest land diverted for the project of which the Environmental Ministry reportedly given approval for diversion of 700 hectares of land. For widening of the roads, precarious mountain slopes are being cut in a haphazard manner with the use of heavy machinery like JCBs and pokelands. The process has removed the vegetation cover on slopes, downhill and exposed soil and rocks to along the slopes. There have been many reports showing how hasty widening of roads has destabilized the slopes and induced multiple landslides. Actually, as per the rules, ordinarily a highway project on this scale would require a full-scale environmental impact assessment under Government of India's law. This would be presented to the Environment Ministry, which would decide whether the project should be given an environmental clearance without which the project cannot be implemented. But the government found a way to avoid an environmental scrutiny of this project, and the Ministry of Road Transport and Highway claimed that this 900-kilometer long project was made of 57 smaller projects, each less than 100 kilometers in length, separated by 15 bypasses. So since 2013, highway expansion projects of less than 100 kilometers in India have been exempt from an environmental impact assessment. So other impact, like there are 29 landslide prone zones identified along this project, and soil erosion and landslide is contributing substantially to soil loss, resulting in the decline of productivity of agricultural land. And the state, actually the debris and mud generated in massive amount from slope cutting is being dumped directly into the rivers. This has distributed aquatic life and water quality of the stream all in. The government has made some dumping zones, but most of them are also located close to the rivers. The government is adversely affecting its own Ganga rejuvenation objective and not even assessing how the project would affect its Ganga rejuvenation objective. And there are also reports from sources revealing that many places dumping of mud has been damaging the farmland, thus affecting the livelihood of many of the affected people have protesting against indiscriminate mud dumping. And all there was a tragic incident in which 14 persons were killed and around 50 persons injured when the bus they were traveling in fell into 300-meter deep gorge near place in Rishikesh Gangotri Highway. It said that the bus driver who was injured who lost control over the vehicle after failing to navigate a crater and debris present on the road, where the work for the all-weather Char Dham road is on. It also falls in the landslide zone. So next, Nima, can you please change the slide? Okay.
Manager, so you reached to this slide, right? Are you here, Manas? Yes, so you are in this slide, right? Yes, yes, I do. So you are presenting this slide, right?
Yes, this side.
Okay.
Actually, I've already presented this slide. So next please. I have already discussed about the environmental impact assessment. Nima, now you can discuss about this.
Oh my God. Hello. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Nima. Go on.
Yeah, we can.
Or I got some technical problem here.
We can hear you. Nima, you can go on. Nima, can you hear me? Manas, I think Nima is unable to join.
Navneet, you may continue. Navneet, you can continue.
Yeah, Geeta is also there. Geeta, are you there? You can continue.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Geeta from the group 4. I just like to add a few things on the presentation. As Man stated, and we all know that the extreme natural events have increasingly becoming the new normal region like ours, the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, including in Nepal, India, and Bhutan. Yeah, from the extended droughts or from severe flash frost to landslides. The scale of these climatic disasters have been terrible. We all know that. Such extreme weather events have killed and displaced millions of people. And you also mentioned in the presentation that the people are also displaced and killed in, after this project as well, and destroyed the property and infrastructure worth billions. Vulnerable to effects of climate change, we, the Hindu Kush Himalaya region, we know we must be ready to brace these increasing risks, as well as we need to rethink the development projects like this, which we just discussed, like the road extension or the expansion of the highways or such kind of development projects, as we discussed. We need to rethink such development ambitions. Growth at the cost of environment is not, sustainable. So, as the effects of climate change is getting closer to mountain areas like ours, we must consider the loss of human lives and the future burden while implementing such kind of projects. And so, from this presentation, we want to conclude that only such kind of projects, just economics and politics, they are basically taken into account, but the social aspects, they are barely considered, even in this project as well. And ecological and environmental aspects such as flora and fauna, habitat and land, and ecosystems, these things are being neglected while visualizing such kind of projects, and in this project as well. The consequences of considering the environment as the enemy of development, that will be at our own peril. I want to add that. So from this project, we want so that there is a need to, while planning such kind of development priorities, we need to address the ambitions of the marginalized groups and integrate economics, ecology, society, and politics, which is crucial while preparing and developing such kind of plans and policies. And from this project also, we want to add that the emphasis must be given on the different stakeholders, and sustainable use of resources need to be a top-notch priority of all these kind of projects. So over to you, Navneet. You want to add few things?
Yeah, thank you, Geeta. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to add to the points made by my colleagues Manas and Geeta, because when we were discussing, there were multiple elements. One was related to the risk of disasters, and the another one was related to more on environmental protection kind of aspects. So there are a few points I just wanted to make sure that we discuss in this presentation. One is that whenever there is a mega developmental project in the region, so it happens that most of the times there is hardly any assessment of the future risks that are involved. So the regional climate model, actually, it gives us a fair understanding of what is going to happen in the Himalayan region in the coming few years. But still, the policymakers, they plan the developmental projects in such a way that they only consider the current circumstances, current weather and current climate variability kind of aspects. So this is a failure on the planning part, that we hardly focus on the future risk. Like in the past few years, the Himalayan region has almost everywhere in the Himalayan region, we have faced extreme precipitation events. In Ladakh in 2010 and in 2013, the whole Himalayan region witnessed a drastic kind of environmental event. Like it was partly an environmental issue. Second, it was a disaster which became such a huge catastrophe due to the human-induced vulnerabilities. So I believe that there must be a thorough understanding of the future risk in every single developmental project. Second one is that all the departments, including the public works department, which is responsible for the construction of roads in this highly vulnerable region, they hardly undertake an assessment of the risk related to the livelihoods. So what happens is that the livelihood is also affected in this region. Whenever there is a project like this, people have to shift to new places because the road has to be broadened. So their livelihoods are also affected, and some of the people, they lose their traditional lands on which they used to do agriculture and horticulture. So most of the developmental plans, they fail to address such aspects which are somehow linked to the cultural heritage also. So these two things are very much important to be included in similar projects. My friends from Nepal, they also discussed that there are a few airport construction projects in Nepal, and I believe that the issues are pretty much similar in Nepal and India with respect to the inclusion of climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction centered kind of plans. So there is hardly any convergence of climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction into the developmental programs. And the last thing I wanted to add, and I believe that all of my colleagues, wherever you are from, you would possibly agree that we as practitioners, it is our job to kind of ensure that that all these aspects with respect to sustainable mountain development are factored in the overall developmental policy and practice. But the unfortunate part is that even these SDGs, they have very little mention of corruption-free kind of developmental processes. So you see how it happens that no matter how efficient are your plans in terms of like technical knowledge, I think the corruption fails everything. So imagine there are different policy related decisions that are taken by corrupt politicians, and then it actually screws up the whole process, you see. So this is something we need to understand. And in the presentation made by Mr. Hans that day, Hans mentioned that he is certainly not a social scientist, but then every single project that is being implemented, it has to be made transparent and accountable in such a way that every single person involved and whosoever is going to be affected by that development project should be able to see every single detail of such a project, how many trees are cut, how much land is taken, and what are the alternatives that the proposed project is going to provide. So these are some of my points that I wanted to add. And another last thing is the understanding of payment for ecological services is hardly kind of focused in this part of the world. Like in the Himalayan region, we hardly follow the concept of PES in our developmental sphere. So the last thing I want to give the floor to my colleagues again. Thank you so much. Manas, would you take it forward from here, or Rita, if you are there, you can add.
Rita, would you like to add something?
You have to conclude, please.
Yeah, Manas can take over from here.
Okay. So actually, okay. Development in the Himalayas is important.
So Manas, maybe we can leave some time for question and answer if anybody has.
Okay, so do you confirm you finished the presentation? Because the audio is not so good.
Yes,
okay.
Danilo.
Sorry for asking, but okay. Thank you very much, and I would like to congratulate for facing the logistic. That is not easy. I know that Manas is driving in the middle of the mountains, so it's I appreciate the effort of Manas and of all the group. So there is an observation from Gabriel. I found very interesting that a high-power committee was established to support the Supreme Court. Could you elaborate more about the ecological consideration that this IPC used? How was the composition of the commission? Local scientific knowledge or international expert? What are the challenges associated with governance management to support mountain ecosystem?
Actually, high-powered committee consisted of 26 members, and out of 26 members, 24 members are government officials, which are responsible for implementation of this project, and rest 2 members are from NGO fraternity, non-governmental organizations.
Can I add something, Manas?
Yes, please.
Yeah, the thing is that most of the state action plans on climate change, we also have a national action plan on climate change, but here in this case, the specific issues related to mountains, the core document for sustainable development in the mountainous region at the state level is the State Action Plan on Climate Change, SAPCC. So SAPCC has a mention that they need to improve the governance. Manas? Yeah, sorry.
But question, okay, but questions still remains about the legality of the Char Dham project in the past. The courts have often struck down projects that have proceeded without an environmental impact assessment. However, the Supreme Court has chosen to stay silent on this aspect while educating on the Char Dham Pariyojana. So this is my final comment.
Okay, thank you. There are more questions or comments or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
In case there is no question, I just wanted to add that there are enough documents. Like we need to understand that we certainly have like best quality documents. There is a state action plan on climate change. Every single document talks high of like practicing everything that is good and like that has to be done, but unfortunately there's lack of enforcement. And as I mentioned, that corruption, it is even in the judiciary. So you can't like underestimate the kind of role of a corrupt judiciary playing into like destroying even the governance part of sustainable development. So this is the thing, like at one end, we as practitioners keep on making sincere efforts. At the other side, there are bad people who are only concerned with money, the economy part of the sustainable development. So this is why we are actually losing loads of like natural resources every single year in the Himalayan region. So I sincerely wish that United Nations actually focuses more on the kind of integrated kind of aspects of sustainable development, which should include corruption eradication. Otherwise, we are just talking good things. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to ask again if there are members of Group 2 that are willing to present. Otherwise, I would like to give the floor to Rosa Laura for the final closing remarks. And okay, here, welcome, Rosa Laura. And I would like to add a technical comment at the end of the remarks. Don't close the connection, because we would like to open all the webcams and capture the screens in order to make a virtual group picture. Okay, Rosa Laura, please.
Thank you, Danilo. Well, first of all, thank you so much for all your presentations. I have personally learned a lot. It is really interesting what I have heard, and I hope we can continue working together, because there is so much information and so much energy in your presentation that we need to really make a good use of this. So feel free to get in contact with me and to propose ways to continue working together. Well, you are now part of the IPROMO family and also of the Mountain Partnership. So you will receive now regular communication from my side, from my colleagues in the Mountain Partnership Secretariat at the Food and Agriculture Organizations. We have a number of events that are already planned. The first one will take place on the 19th of October. It's the kickstart of the celebration for the International Mountain Day that, as you know, is taking place every year on 11th of December. This year, the theme is Mountain Biodiversity, and we are starting the celebrations with an event, a virtual event, of course, that is scheduled for the 19th of October, that is targeting in particular youth. So the aim is to create or strengthen a youth movement to support mountains everywhere. So mountain biodiversity will be the topic of this conversation. I will do an invitation for that, and I hope you can join. I think we have all heard that the challenges that are confronting mountains are increasing. They are not they're not easy challenges, and we need to stay together and work together to ensure that mountains receive the attention they deserve. I think we have heard a lot of issues from everywhere in the world, but there is a common element. Mountains need to receive more attention, more investment, more specific policies. And this is why I think it's so important that we stay together and create a social movement that would send a strong message to policymakers, to our politicians at all levels, but also to the UN, to ensure that mountains are fully included in the development processes. In the national priority, they should be part of national priorities, they should be part of the international processes. This is what, as Mountain Partnership, we are doing from the very beginning, but we need to grow and we need support from your side. As you know, this was the IPROMO course number 13, and so there are many other IPROMO students in the world, I will put you in contact with them. I will share with you information about the former IPROMO students, and I will strongly encourage you to try to get in contact with them and try to create a critical mass in your respective countries to deal at national level with climate change. In some countries, there is a national committee for mountains. Especially, I would say, in the Andean countries, these national committees are pretty active. In particular, in Argentina, there is a very active one of the first one, the very first one, in fact. But also in the other Andean countries, in Peru, in Ecuador, in Colombia, Bolivia, there is some kind of structure. And also in a few African countries like Madagascar and Malawi and Lesotho, there is some kind of a mechanism for looking at mountains from a multi-stakeholder perspective. What I mean is that these committees are including representatives of different ministries, of universities, of the civil society, and they can really be an important mechanism for looking at mountain issues from an holistic, multi-stakeholder perspective. So I encourage you to see if there is such committee in your country, and if not, perhaps you could be thinking about putting a similar committee in place, joining forces with the other IPROMO students from previous editions. As you know, the Mountain Partnership is, as I told you the first day, we have now more than 400 members, government and civil society organizations. I encourage you to look at the membership list, see if your organization of your government is already a part. If not, of course, the door is open and you're encouraged to join. And the reason for joining is to use the Mountain Partnership as a platform for exchanging ideas, for promoting collaboration, for action on the ground, and also for having joining forces and having a stronger voices for lobbying at international level. Allow me to repeat once again, mountains need our collective help. Otherwise, no, it's not, the problem will not only affect mountain ecosystem and mountain people, the problem will be for everyone living also in the lowland. So we really need to act together to see if we can do something concrete. Well, as you know, we have this hashtag. I saw this also in, I think it was Group 1 presentation, Mountains Matter. So I encourage you to use this and to be part of this young movement, social movement for climate change or for ecological movement. I think this is a very important contribution. I also heard this issue about corruption. I think we are all very aware that corruption is a tragic limit to development. Is a tragic limit to development, and I think one thing that we can all do to fight corruption is to be part of social movement, to have a strong voice, because only ensuring that ethics is part of our action, we can promote equity and sustainable development. So I really encourage, especially the young part of this group, to join this social ecological movement to ensure that the new generation can have an impact and change the situation. Well, I think now it's time for thanking you in particular. I know it has not been easy to follow 2 weeks of courses, sometimes with some technological problems. I mean, it has been really a pleasure. I hope we will have the possibility of interacting with you in the future, also face-to-face in the coming years. A big thank you goes, of course, to the 2 partners of the Mountain Partnership in this endeavor, that are the University of Torino and the University of Tuscia. Without them, without their scientific support and also their personal commitment, this course wouldn't take place. And of course, a big thank you to Danilo, who is our chair and who has led this group throughout these 2 weeks in a very efficient and professional way. And so really a big applause to Danilo. And well, usually at this stage, beer, or we would have the delivery of the diploma that will happen. We will send you the diploma or even email. But really, a big thank you from my side. And Danilo, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa Laura. It's, as every year, is a pleasure to work for this IPROMO adventure. So thank you again. And I would like to introduce Michele for a short comment.
No,
remark, and then please.
What else? It's been a pleasure. The presentation have been very, very nice, like every year. I really appreciate the efforts also online to keep in touch. And so the working group have been successful. So thanks a lot also from my side. Also, the University of Torino welcome you if you need any contact. We have an international office for also foreign people. I could just add in the chat our address. So if you want, there are some opportunities also for PhD students and other connection with foreign countries. So of course you are welcome. I don't want to stress you more. Just thanks also Rosa Laura, the FAO Mountain Partnership. They did a great job and tried to connect mountain people. I really appreciate what they do for the benefit of mountain people. And Danilo, of course, it's a pleasure also to collaborate with him and the National Research Council. So I think it's a good way to collaborate to try to keep the best from everyone. I don't want to lose your time, and so it's a welcome again to join maybe next year in presence. It will be great to have the time to spend and to share experience in presence in front of a beer or in a real classroom. So I'm really looking forward to see you in presence. Danilo, what else? I give the floor to you for the for the final picture, and I think we can try to switch on the video. Now we can try even with is a risk, but I think it's the only way to share this experience all together. What happened? I don't know what will happen if a system will work. All this video switch on at the same time. We will see. Well, it's very nice. Nice view.
Find out soon.
Apparently it works. It's great. But please, Danilo, be fast.
Okay, yes, now, okay, I have the... Okay, try to resist. I'm speaking to the system, not to you. Because we have two screens full of participants, so I have to make two pictures. Don't move.
Try to enlarge the picture. I think we do the best. And
okay, we try to resist. Like in your picture, you have to stay and don't move, even in a virtual way. Try to close every windows that is useless. But no way, we are too much. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to thank you for the participation, and now I'm opening the microphones. So a hand to everybody, and everybody next IPROMO.